Hey you guys, it's Lauren. Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about the best and the worst of the Booktok recommendations. You guys, I don't know about you, but when I scroll through TikTok, my TBR just keeps growing and growing and growing. I add so many new books to my list, and it's a good thing and a bad thing because I found some really great recommendations, but I've also found some not so great, and we're going to talk about those books today. 5 of these books are the best, some of honestly the best books I've ever read, and the other 5 are, I think, a big old fat waste of time. So we're going to talk about those 10 books today. I'm going to do a part 2 of this, maybe even a 3 and a 4, because there's a lot of recommendations out there. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So the first book I wanted to talk about today is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This was all over my TikTok feed, and I avoided it for a while because I heard it was a story narrated by an octopus. I just thought to myself, like, I don't know if I'm gonna like that. First of all, the poor guy's in captivity, and I'm such an animal lover. I couldn't even stand as a kid seeing an ant drown in a pool. I'm the one that was like saving the ants. So I'm like, I don't know, this might be kind of hard to read, but oh my God, this story is, first of all, it's so well written. The plot is so good. The main character is Tova. She's the cleaning lady at an aquarium, and she is just the most lovable, motherly figure. You just feel so much for Tova in this book. I just loved her. She's one of those book characters that I will always remember. And Marcellus is the octopus. There's only a few chapters. There's maybe like 5 or so chapters of Marcellus narrating the book, and it's only a page or 2, and it really does add to like the depth of the story. Definitely give the audiobook a listen to. I mainly read this in print, but I did hear like little snippets through the audiobook. That's generally how I read, maybe like 60% in print, and then I'll usually download the audiobook as well, and I'll listen to the audiobook when I'm in my car. And I'm so glad I read this book that way, because Marcellus's character in the audiobook, oh my gosh, that narrator, he had the best voice for Marcellus. He sounded almost like a scholarly highbrow figure, like in this British accent. Like, it was just perfect for what I would picture in Marcellus's personality. Wait till you hear about the twist. That I was just, my mind was blown. So yeah, don't be put off by the fact that this is narrated by an octopus. It is mainly told in 3rd person, and there is a little love interest in there as well. It's not heavily grief focused. I was a little nervous about that. It talks about Tova losing both her husband and her son. I'm not big on any child deaths in books, but it's not heavily grief focused at all. It's just, it really pulls at the heartstrings, but in the best way possible. So good. It is so good. I'm so glad I read this the best. And I found this, I thrifted this. I'm so glad I found this. All right, and then next up is one of my least favorite recommendations that I got from Booktok, and that is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. Guys, I thought this was so cheesy. So this is the story about Elsie. She goes on a book retreat, and she finds herself with her car broken down, and she ends up in a fictional book town, or in her favorite book's fictional book town, which in theory, I thought, okay, that sounds like such a cool concept. Like, you're in the setting of one of your favorite books. How cool is that? But the thing that got me about this book was that there was no setup as to why there was a fictional book town. It almost reminded me, let's use Wizard of Oz, for example. You're not really sure if the Land of Oz is a real place. Is it because Dorothy fell and hit her head? Is she dreaming? Or is it truly like a magical place? But there's a setup there. The tornado happens, she hits her head. So the whole time you're thinking, is this real or fake? There's like no rhyme or reason for why Elsie ends up in this town. So I needed some setup there. And then also the love interest was really, really strange. It was kind of enemies to lovers, but there was no really reason for them being enemies. Like at the beginning, Anders, who's the love interest, who, by the way, Elsie ends up staying at his loft the first day she meets him in a bar. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, I got a place in my loft you can sleep. And she's like, oh yeah, sure, sounds like a great idea. Like, what? No, that would never happen. And then there's one scene where Elsie randomly slaps Anders in the face. And it wasn't even a harsh comment. I think what he said was kind of mean, but it didn't. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've never slapped somebody in the face in my life. Like, it would take a lot. And it was just kind of out of nowhere when she slapped him. Just the whole setup in this book was weird. I found it cheesy. The romance was cheesy. The sex scenes were cheesy. I just did not enjoy this whatsoever. And there was no resolution and end as to why the fictional Booktown was there. Like, when she left, is it still there? Is the town not there? Like, what the heck happened to this town? Is it a real town? We don't know. Yeah, not a fan of this book. I felt like this was a big old waste of time. So I would say no to this Booktok recommendation. This next book I see everywhere. I see everybody talking about this book. I see this in thrift stores everywhere. And I think that's why it put me off for a while, because it seemed like it was kind of like a recycled book. I'm like, this is really good. So this is the story of Amber, who is essentially this like kind of nobody. She doesn't really have a name for herself. She's not really going anywhere in life. She runs into Daphne at the gym. Daphne is this rich socialite woman, and you'll find out in the book how she does it, but she inserts herself into Daphne's life, becomes infatuated with her handsome rich husband, and somehow like gets intertwined in Daphne's life, and things just go haywire. There's a major twist in this which like blew me out of the water. It was such a good twist. It reminded me a lot of Gone Girl, a Frida McFadden book, which I was about to say, but I give the twist away, so I don't want to say that. But yeah, a lot of comparisons to one of Frida's books. So good. I just ate this up. As you can see, it's a pretty long book, and I think I read this in 2 days. So good. Next book up, First Lie Wins. I saw this book everywhere. I was trying to get it through my library, and it was never available. Finally, it became available. I was so excited about it. I read this back in the fall, and I still see it everywhere. It's still like on the shelves of Target. The summary really got me. I'm like, I think I'm really gonna like this. So essentially, it's a story of, what is her name? Evie. She is the main character, and you later find out that Evie is one of her aliases. Why can't I say that word? Aliases that she has gone by. She's essentially kind of like a con artist criminal, and the whole book is kind of a back and forth of present and past time of all these different aliases that she has gone by, and it gets very confusing. I kept having to reread parts of the story. It felt like a homework assignment. I did not enjoy this whatsoever. I couldn't keep up with the different characters. There wasn't a love interest in it, but it wasn't really like a juicy love interest. It does kind of get interesting when it talks about her love interest's job. You find out that he's like this criminal in the black market. So that gets interesting, but even his job was confusing. So maybe if you're into that Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of vibe, you might like this, but the back and forth was just too confusing. Yeah, too much back and forth for me. The whole book felt like too much work, not worth my time. All right, next book that was well worth my time, Wild Love. Oh my gosh, I love this book. This is my first read by Elsie Silver, and I can't wait to read more from her. I already started the second book in the series, and I just love her writing. I love her like banter between her characters, and the banter in this book especially was so good. So this is the story of Ford. He is a billionaire music producer up in Canada. The setting is amazing too. He has his production company like in the middle of the mountains in Canada. So the vibe was great with the mountainous setting, and then the love interest. Oh my gosh, the romantic scenes were so good. Can we talk about that pen scene? If you know, you know. Rosie's brother is Ford's best friend, so you have that history. So that makes it just really fun and juicy. And also I love the fact that Ford is kind of that like snarky, mean guy kind of vibe, but in a funny, flirty way. And it's not like a nasty mean. It's just that like funny, dry sense of humor. And oh my gosh, Rosie gives it back to him. I loved Rosie's character in this. Oh, and I forgot about they have this really cute like office romance thing going on too. So the fact that they work together makes it even more tense, but they'll send throughout the day, they send each other like these cute little like flirty emails. So good. And then her journal articles, I forgot about the diary entries. The way the book ends, it's just so good. So good. Love this. Next up, let's talk about B.K. Borison's First Time Caller. You guys, I don't know about you, but I found this to be the most hyped up book of 2025. I think it was the start of 2025. And I could not tell you how disappointed I was by this book. This was so long and nothing happened. Was it a cute story? Sure, but it was way too wordy. I felt like the banter was good, but Aiden and Lucy's relationship, I just needed some conflict, and it was too easy. So essentially this book is the story of Aiden, who is a radio host that gives romance advice on the radio. And we have Lucy, who is a female mechanic, who, when I heard that, I'm like, how cool is that? She's a strong female lead. Has a job in a male dominant industry. Very cool. But how that is entwined in the story, I thought was so corny and cheesy. I'm sorry. Like the one scene where Aiden talks about getting turned on by her jumpsuit, how I think he said he wanted to like sink her teeth into the zipper and like pull her zipper down with his teeth. No, I can't. Hopefully that lighting looks a little better. I just switched my filming mode to cinematic because I was losing some lighting. So you guys will let me know if that view looks a little better. But let's talk about The Wedding People. Oh my gosh, I love this book. So this is by Alison Isbach. Such a great book. As soon as I probably read about 5 chapters, I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be a 5-star. I know it. It had me hooked from the beginning. I love the humor in this. It's definitely a dark, you have to like dry, dark humor, but it was just so good. But this is the story of Phoebe Stone. She travels to Rhode Island to the Cornwall Inn. She goes there essentially for an escape because she's going through a difficult time in her life. Her cat just passed away, and the cat was essentially like her child because she was going through IVF treatments that were unsuccessful. So she was having a tough time. And she gets to this hotel and she finds herself among all of these wedding guests. And here she's like the only one that's staying at the hotel that's not part of this wedding. So of course there's all these like quirky characters that come into play here, all the people that she meets. There's of course a love interest. If you guys appreciate dry humor, this was like definitely an LOL moment for me when I was reading this book. But she was walking along like a trail by the water, and she comes across a sign, and she goes, in quotes, "High risk of injury," the sign warns, with a helpful picture of a man falling to his death. like just stuff like that. It was just such a good, well-written book. I love this. Love the ending, everything about this. Love this so much. If you like kind of like those domestic dramas, I think you would really enjoy this. Really fun book. Now let's talk about a Frida McFadden book called The Boyfriend. The Boyfriend is one of her more popular books, and I don't get the hype. I do like Frida McFadden books. I think you have to take them with a grain of salt. They're not super in-depth. They're not very character-driven. You don't learn a lot about the characters. They're very surface level, but I enjoyed The Housemaid. I thought that twist was so good. But The Boyfriend, I thought this was so bad. So bad. The Boyfriend is the story of Sydney, who is on the New York dating scene. She ends up dating this guy, and she essentially suspects him of these murders because there's murders popping up throughout the city. And one of those murders, pause right here. If you're not into spoilers, I wanted to talk about this one scene because I think it's a big part of the cheese in the book. This part drove me nuts. But one of these murders is Sydney's roommate. Sydney's roommate, Bonnie, turns up murdered in their apartment. And I have to mention this because, oh my gosh, this part drove me bonkers. But so Bonnie turns up dead. She's laying in bed. Sydney discovers her bludgeoned in this bed. And one of her first thoughts that comes to mind is, wow, she was one of my really good friends. And you know what? That girl could rock a scrunchie. Sorry. Your roommate's dead? You walk into a murder scene and that's one of your first thoughts, that she could rock a scrunchie? Like, oh my God. It was just like, wow. I guess we had a surface level friendship there. And the other part that drove me nuts, and this is a common pattern among Frida's books, you don't hear any background on the psychopaths in her books. I do feel like The Housemaid went into it a little bit, but this book, there's very odd details about these characters' childhoods. Like, rather than talking about, okay, when I'm reading a thriller, I need to know what their childhood traumas were, why they have PTSD, why they're currently a psycho, a sociopath, what drove them to murder people. I need to know the deets. I need to know. Frida talked about some details about these people, but they were very odd details. Like, you learn the one guy likes ant farms, the one guy likes to eat bugs. Like, weird stuff that kind of makes them, okay, maybe they're kind of like an awkward person, but not enough to make them go ahead and murder somebody. So I needed more from the characters in this book. It was a quick read. It's an easy read, but I think I just needed more from this book, and I was very disappointed. All right, now let's talk about The Woman by Kristen Hanna. I read this on Libby a few months ago, and I was an instant Kristen Hanna fan, and I cannot wait to read more from her. This book was so good. If you would have told me 10 years ago when I was reading 50 Shades of Grey that I would be reading a story about the Vietnam War and loving it, I would have thought you were nuts, but oh my gosh, this was such a great historical fiction. This is the story of Frankie, she comes from a privileged family in the 60s, and she just wants more out of life, so she decides to enroll in the army as an army nurse. And I don't know if it's being a nurse why I connected with her so much, but honestly, I think she's just such a strong female lead, such a resilient female character that I think, honestly, you're just gonna love Frankie. She's one of those characters that will stick with you forever. And all of the side characters as well, her friendships is not only a story about of hardship and romance, but also women's friendships as well. Oh, and then the relationship with Jamie the surgeon, oh my gosh, so good. Frankie falls in love with this surgeon that believes in Frankie. She really doubts herself when she first gets out there, and he just pushes her, and he really believes in her nursing skills, and I just love that. I could really relate to that. It made me think of being back to being a brand new nurse, and it always takes that one person to really believe in your skills, and he really does. He pushes her, and it's just so good. It is I will say, there's a lot of heavy scenes. There's a lot of gruesome scenes with soldiers and even family and young kids. So I will say that, but it is such a great story. Oh my gosh, love that book. All right, and last but not least, let's talk about Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. So, you guys, I have to say, I really do enjoy Ali Hazelwood as a writer. I love Theoretically. That was so great. Also, Not in Love. I actually like Not in Love more than Love Theoretically, and I feel like Love Theoretically is one of her more popular reads. So I was excited about this release, but I was so disappointed by this. This was, big flop for me. So this is the story of Scarlett, also known as Vandy. Her and Lucas are competitive collegiate swimmers. Lucas is the ex of Vandy's best friend, Penn. And the reason they start dating is because, Penn essentially hooks them up because she hears that they're both into the same kinky in the bed stuff, if you know what I mean. So she hears that they're both into the same thing. So she's like, you guys would be great together. You guys are both into the same stuff. So she encourages them to start dating. So it's kind of in a way secretive, which was fun, but I feel like Ali could have went so much further with this book. This book was so long, and I felt like nothing happened. I wasn't really necessarily into the swimming part, but if there was more in-depth analysis of like the competitive meets and all that, I feel like I would have been more into it. I have such a fear of heights too, and the thought of a diver climbing 10 meters from a pool and diving into that water, I just cannot imagine how they do that. So I would have loved some more like inner dialogue from the characters as they're competing and traveling up that ladder, like what is going through their head. And Allie doesn't talk about that at all. The only thing that she goes into about the meets is essentially the rankings, like, oh, she's like, oh, this person placed first, this one was second. But I just wanted some more inner dialogue of what these swimmers go through when they go through these competitive meets. I felt like I would have been more into the swimming aspect if she had more detail about the swimming. I almost felt like she grazed over it because she thought, okay, if you're not into swimming, you might not like this book, so let me just graze over the swimming parts. But I wanted more detail. And also with the relationship too, there was more dialogue, a lot of like quoted material, but not a lot of inner dialogue. And one thing in particular, this is kind of a spoiler too. So if you want to skip past this, I'll put a little notation at the bottom that this is a spoiler, but I have to talk about this part because it really bothered me. I could not get over the part where Lucas is talking to Vandy about his like sexual history, about how he's been in threesomes, and she directly asks him if he's been with a man during this threesome. He says yes, and it's just completely grazed over. There's no, Vandy doesn't like, it doesn't talk about Vandy competing with her thoughts like, oh my gosh, she's been with a man before. Am I okay with that? And just to put that out there, if Vandy is okay with a sexually fluent person, fine, that's all fine and dandy, but I gotta hear some inner dialogue about that. Tell me what you think about that. Like, to just brush over that completely? What? I was just like, no, and yes, this book is about sexual fetishes and all that, so I guess that's why it was in there and it was grazed over, but I needed to hear more about Vandy's thoughts on that than just a little brush over. And also with the sexual exploration part of this book, this could have gone so much further with the fetishes and all that. I mean, in Not in Love, that book was spicy. All of Allie's books are very spicy, and this one is not lacking in the spice at all. But the exploration part, I mean, she could have went a lot further. 442 pages and nothing happened. The characters even traveled to Sweden and Amsterdam, and I had to go back and reread, like, wait, did they actually go to Amsterdam yet? Oh wait, they did go. That's right, because all Allie mentioned was, oh wow, look at that building, it's beautiful. Like, no mention of these gorgeous, I mean, I've been to, the only overseas country I've been to is Italy, and I could go on and on about the architecture there. To just graze over that part, very strange. Like, I want to be transported when I'm reading, and I just felt like, again, she could have went so much further. Yeah, I came away from this not learning anything more about competitive swimming, not learning anything more about Lucas and Vandy's fetishes. Come on, give us some more here. And also, what was the other thing? Oh, about them both being in pre-med. It barely goes into that. It talks a little bit about them taking their MCATs, but I think that would be so interesting to hear what going through pre-med school would be like as far as like the biology classes, and I took some of that in nursing school, but not as in-depth as MDs do. So I wanted to learn more about that. She could have went so much further with this book. I was so disappointed by this. Still like you, Allie, but yeah, this one, not a fan, unfortunately. So yeah, big disappointment with that. So I'd love to hear from you guys. What are the books you're reading? What books have you loved recently? Let me know if you have any recommendations for me. Let me know what upcoming new releases you're excited about. Let me know all the things. Thanks for being here, guys. You guys are the best. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.